Ladies and gentlemen, bubbles have three characteristics. They tend to be a single cycle boom, then bust, relatively short in duration, and crash back down to the baseline, which is either zero or the inflation-adjusted place of where they were before the boom. The Dutch tulip mania was like this. So was the housing bubble. So was the dot-com bubble. And so was pretty much every other bubble ever. So what about Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin is actually hard to see the price cycles because it's increased such radically in value over time. So we're going to use a logarithmic scale to look at what it looks like on a price cycle where you go from $0 to $1, then to $10, $100. It's called the logarithmic scale, which is often used for assets with this level of upside. So in the first price cycle, Bitcoin went from about 5 cents up to $32, back to $2. Now, if we were having this debate in 2011, you could be forgiven for believing it met 2 of the 3 criteria of a bubble, except that it landed at a price that was 40 times as high as the 5 cents that it started at. What happened next? It didn't go to 0. It went up to $1,200, came back to 92, meeting now none of the criteria of a bubble. Then what did it do? Well, it zoomed up to $19,000, down to $3,200, meeting, once again, none of the criteria of a bubble, 35 times the previous low price. Then it zoomed up to $69,000, down to $15,000, once again meeting none of the criteria of any historical bubble we have ever seen. Bubbles look like the bottom left of this chart. They do not look like the orange line. So what does look like that orange line? Well, it turns out every high-value asset that has ever become a trillion-dollar industry or asset looks just like that on a logarithmic chart. Apple, Amazon, Netflix, even gold, when you zoom out, goes through the same pattern. And all of these assets do it for the same reason. The marketplace is trying to figure out how big of a deal is this asset, how big of a deal is this industry, and what role will this commodity, technology, or company impact in the global world. Bitcoin's doing the same thing for the very same reason, which is the opposite of how any bubble in human history has ever behaved. So why is it valuable? Well, for the first time in human history, we have a borderless, predictable, and scarce monetary asset. So what do I mean? Borderless because Bitcoin is decentralized. It's not controlled by any country, company, or anybody. And that means Bitcoin is not like fiat currencies, which is nothing but a bunch of fiefdoms all over the world. And borderless because you don't have to have the government's permission to cross a border with more than $10,000. Bitcoin is a decentralized and borderless currency that is valuable because the world has never had a universal worldwide currency that worked like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is also predictable, absolutely, completely unlike the Federal Reserve, where even the experts get it wrong every time. And having a money that is absolutely predictable is a very valuable characteristic. Also, Bitcoin is scarce, truly scarce. There will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin, ever, as opposed to fiat, which is as infinite as a politician's promises.